What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. Now guys, I've said numerous times on this channel, if I had the power to summon defunct watch companies back to life, Universal Geneve would be at the top of my list. Now I think it's true, most watch enthusiasts really do respect the Universal Geneve name, but even so, they're terribly underrated. Now on my wrist today is a gorgeous Universal Geneve Cal 232 with the fancy lugs, just a gorgeous manual wine gentleman's watch brought to me from the Time Teller shop. That's right, this episode is sponsored by thetimetellershop.com, my own store. If you're interested in watches like this, then please click the link in the description below. Check out the #1 place to find affordable vintage luxury watches, www.thetimetellershop.com. So okay, we can all agree, this watch is gorgeous, but Universal Geneve has a bunch of really underrated offerings that I want to explore a little bit further today, so let's go ahead and take a look at why I want to bring Universal Geneve back from the dead. It's 4:02 p.m., let's get down to business. Alright, so Universal Geneve, absolutely not a modern watchmaker by any means. They were founded in the epicenter of Swiss watchmaking, Le Locle, Switzerland, in 1894. But it was really the 1930s to 1940s that we saw Universal Geneve's heavy hitters. You see, it was their Compacts chronograph series that really made them a household name, at least within the watchmaking circles. Things like the Compacts, the Unicompacts, the Tri-Compacts, and the Aero Compacts chronographs. Incredible watches with some really interesting complications and dial layouts. I would absolutely love to own one personally. And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like some vintage collectors might feel really special with their Heuer big sub chronographs on their wrist, or maybe even a tropical dial Speedmaster, maybe even a vintage Paul Newman Daytona. But if you come across someone in the wild wearing a vintage Universal Geneve Compacts chronograph, that person knows something. But okay, let's say you're not a chronograph guy. Let's say you don't like that complication, you don't need it, you never use it. Let's say you are more interested in like the subtlety of an oyster case, but you're not a Rolex guy either. Well, Universal Geneve has something for you. You see, in 1954, Universal Geneve connected with another pretty big name in watchmaking history, Gerald Genta, and he designed the Polerouter for them. That's right, one of the most prolific, kind of subtle, similar watches that nowadays is seen as a direct competitor to the vintage oyster-cased Rolex dates. And guys, listen, I think that's actually a fair comparison. You take a picture of the Polerouter date, and then you take a picture of my Rolex date. When you look at the shape, the overall design, the overall kind of versatile wearability, yeah, these watches incredibly similar. Just kind of a simple everyday watch, right? Well, ends up the Polerouter actually isn't that simple at all. You see, the Universal Geneve Polerouter had an attribute that Rolex never really cared about and never really used, and I'm talking about the Universal Geneve Microter. And it sounds a lot like what it is, a micro rotor. The UG Microter is one of my all-time favorite watchmaking designs ever. It's so unique, so fun, just a really fun take on something we're all very familiar with, right? The watch's rotor, a counterweight that spins and gives the watch power. Well, they decided to use a little itty-bitty one, and yeah, it's not something you see every day. Even nowadays, it's very uncommon. And again, this Polerouter came out in 1954. So between their various chronographs and their very innovative Polerouter series, Universal Geneve is just really charming in ways other companies still aren't. And just as I said at the beginning, I really do wish I could bring these guys back to life, but I'm sure that statement is confusing some of you. Back to life? Is Universal Geneve even really dead in the first place? Well, according to their website, which still does exist, it was updated last in 2019, so about a year ago. And if you look at that website's inventory, you'll see a bunch of honestly kind of ugly chronographs, nothing I'd personally be interested in at all. But regardless of my opinion, I guess technically Universal Geneve is still in business, right? I mean, they're still listing watches. Well, I don't know about you, but I personally was not satisfied just by looking at their inventory and the little date at the bottom of the screen. Okay, 2019, that was the last time this website was updated. I want to get to the bottom of this. Are they still a company? Well, Didn't take me very long to do a Google search. It ends up that Universal Geneve is currently still owned by Steelix Holding International Limited, which is a Hong Kong-based business. So again, when you do explore Universal Geneve's website, they have a quote there. They continue to offer chronographs and keep a quality after-sales service. Our watches are in particular available for order on City Chain Hong Kong. Universal Geneve watches are also available in Singapore, Thailand, China, and Malaysia. So if they are still selling watches, it seems they're almost exclusively focusing on that Asian demographic. And that's all well and good. I suppose if you really do want one of these modern Universal Geneve watches, you could find a way to order one. I think the biggest travesty here is that the watches they are offering currently are nothing like the vintage Universal Geneve watches. I'm really crossing my fingers. I'm hoping that there's a renaissance with this company and they get taken back to their roots. And I'm hoping this isn't just one of these defunct companies that, you know, trades hands a bunch of times like Wittenauer. It's just a name now. It's just a shell of the company it once was. You know, companies keep acquiring the names and then flipping them, and then, yeah, I'm hoping that's not what happens with Universal Geneve. Unfortunately, though, the realist in me thinks that Steelix is probably just holding on to the brand name, and eventually, you know, this is just a placeholder website, and Universal Geneve will just be officially defunct in the near future. Huge bummer. But thankfully, if you know where to look and you know what you're doing, you can find a plethora of vintage Universal Geneve watches out there, and yeah. Again, vintage has character, has beauty. It's what they were supposed to be, and I'm just honored to have a vintage Universal Geneve on my wrist right now, and I'm very honored to offer it to you guys at thetimetellershop.com. Because in my opinion, Universal Geneve, super underrated, incredibly ahead of their time. The Polerouter, amazing. The Compax chronographs, amazing. Little hand-wind gentleman watches like this, gorgeous. But guys, let me know what you think. I'm sure some of you are lucky enough to own a vintage Universal Geneve, and if any of you own one of these modern Universal Geneve watches, please leave me a comment because I'd love to learn from you. And if you did learn something from watching this video, if you had a laugh, if you had a chuckle, if you enjoyed yourself at all, please consider clicking the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on all the content we're doing here. We're doing 6 pieces of content for our channel members. That's right, special thanks to our certified T3 bots. We do not use Patreon here. We use a thing called YouTube channel memberships. It's $4.99 a month, and again, you get 6 pieces of content a week, and you get access to the members only Discord chat. We talk about food, watches, obviously, working out, cars, everyday carry items, just a bunch of really cool fun things, a very diverse, fun group of people. We have a bunch of different opinions on watch collecting, on everything, but we all come together and we all have a really good time, and I'd love to see you there. So please, join the channel. But guys, thanks for hanging out with me on this episode. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with everyone you know. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. Always remember, I didn't invent time, I just tell it. Check out the Time Teller shop, would you?